this is what I'm wanting to support you in experiencing, that without thinking, you're here. As soon as you think, you're not here. As soon as you think, the thinking has you become what you think you are. Just like that. You don't even see it happen. Right? But it's a different world, because when you're in that world, right, you're in the world of the separate, long-lasting self. And in that world, you see through those lenses, you see what's happening as a self. You see what's happening as it relates to you all the time. You see what's happening as it relates to you, right? So you have to keep thinking, do I like this? Do I not like this? Is this good? Is this bad? Should I stay? Should I leave? Should I fight? Should I withdraw? Because you're trying to get control over the experience, right? And the way that you've been oriented, the way you've been indoctrinated about your life is that the experience is a story that's happening, and it's happening out there. It's happening out there, right? And out there is separate from in here, right? And I'm just this little me, and out there is everything else, right? And given that that's the setup, right, my well-being is dependent on the circumstances. Your well-being, whether you're happy, whether you're satisfied, whether you have peace of mind, in the orientation as a person is 100% depending on the circumstances. And that's why if you're feeling depressed, right, you will start to look at, okay, what's depressing me? What's causing the depression? Oh, I have a headache. Oh, I could see that could be the cause of it. Yeah, I'll have to do something to control that. So the whole thought process is always thinking about how to manipulate this. How to manipulate other people, how to manipulate the temperature in the room, how to get from A to B, how to manipulate the past, how to manipulate the future, how to manipulate what's going on right now. And while you're busy being concerned and thinking all the time about manipulating everything, you're not there. You're in the world. You're in this world. You're in the head. You're not there. And no wonder life is not very exciting. No wonder life is not very fulfilling. No wonder life is not very satisfying. You're not there. You're not available to it. So there's no possibility for you to experience any well-being or satisfaction because you're not available to it. And when you are available to it, what shifts is that you're no longer dependent on that. You're no longer dependent on this appearance for your well-being. Because when you're available, you're experiencing well-being as a natural experience. It doesn't require anything. You don't have to do anything to be happy. You don't have to do anything to be peaceful. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to control anything. This state of awareness is always in the same state of being. It's always the same. It's always exactly the same. It's always satisfying. It's always fulfilling. It's always happy because its happiness is natural. Its happiness is a natural experience of existence itself. It's a natural experience of existence itself. It doesn't require anything. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do anything about it. It's already the case. It's always already the case. So then what you have to do is pay attention to when your attention is involved in what's not happening. Pay attention so that you can see when your attention is involved with the thinking activity and when it's involved with the feeling, when it's involved with the imagination. The difference between sleeping at night, right? The difference between the dreaming at night and the dreaming during the day, right? Because the teachings tell us this is a dream we're having right now, right? This is just like the dream you have at night. The difference is built into the nighttime dream is waking up, isn't it? That's part of the nighttime dream is waking up, right? But there is no waking up in this one. Everybody wakes up in the morning. When they wake up, they see the dream wasn't real, right? In a few seconds, whatever was scaring you stops scaring you as soon as you wake up. Okay? And you wake up into this and you say, oh, this is real, that was a dream. But what we're saying in the teaching is if you wake up here, and you can wake up here. In fact, the reason you can wake up here is because you're already awake. The reason you can wake up here is because there's nothing that you have to do to be awake. All you have to do is understand that the mind that was generating the dream, don't forget the dream that you were dreaming last night was real for you when you were dreaming it, wasn't it? It was as real as this when you were dreaming it, right? And when you woke up, it was a relief, right? Oh, I'm glad that wasn't happening, right? And then you're in this dream, but it's not as easy to get out of this one because you can't just wake up, not the way you do from a nighttime dream, right? But you can notice that it's a dream in the sense that it's being produced by your mind, just like the dream at night. This what you're seeing when you look, what you're seeing, this what you're seeing when you look, you think there's space there. You think there's distance there. You think there are separate things there. And you think that that's happening by itself, right? So we reify that. We give it a sense of reality that it has an independent existence. Don't you think the world outside of you has an independent existence? Right? When you wake up, you realize it doesn't have an independent existence. You know, it's being generated by your brain and your mind all the time. You know, when I used to do consciousness training with the inmates in the prison, I would say to them, "You think this world?" And for them, it was very important because they thought the jail was real. And if you think the jail is real, you're suffering by being in that jail, right? So I would say to them, you think this jail is real? You know, you're really sure it's out there, aren't you? You're really sure it's out there and it has an independent existence, you know, from you. And they all say, yeah. I said, just shut your eyes. What happened? It disappeared. See, they would say, oh, no, that's just because I shut my eyes. No, it's not just because you shut your eyes. When you shut your eyes, your brain wasn't generating what you were seeing anymore. That's what happened. It's not out there. It's like that. So this is a dream. This is a dream just like the nighttime is a dream. What's the value of knowing that? Can a dream hurt you? Can a dream upset you? No. So when you see it for what it is, when you see it as it is, right, you realize I'm just the observer. I'm just a witness of this. What do I have to do to witness this? Nothing. I'm already witnessing this. This is happening all the time. There's nothing I have to do. What I have to do is get out of what I thought was happening. I thought that there was a separate world that was out there, that it's affecting me all the time. And as long as I'm living in that, then the circumstances are determining my experience. So then I have to hope things work out, don't I? Because I'm dependent on it working out. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to suffer. I don't want that. So I have to try and control it. If I get enough money, maybe I'll have enough control over it. This is interesting because the richest people in the world, you know, somebody who has all the money that you could possibly need to spend the rest of your life, and then on top of that be the most powerful man on the planet, right? But look at this person. Are they having fun? They're upset all the time. They're angry all the time. They're upset all the time. This is the goal that most people are shooting for. So don't you think it would be a good idea for them to pay attention to see that Elon Musk is nuts? You know, people wish that they could have that kind of money and have that kind of power, right? And you can look at somebody that has that kind of money and has that kind of power, and they're crazy. So isn't that enough to give that up? Stop thinking that that's going to work. The suffering is even greater when you have all that. You know, it's interesting. The suffering is even greater when you have all that because you think if you have all that, whether you're the president or the richest man in the world, you think if you have all that you'll have control, right? But the reason they're suffering is because they don't have any control. Right? And they can't see that. They can't give up the ship. You know, after you have identified yourself that thoroughly with what you're not, you can't give up the ship. You know, then what? You know, then what? If you have somebody that's in that type of situation and they realize how impossible it is, you know, to be happy, satisfied, and peaceful, right? What couldn't they come up with that's going to be the alternative? They played their hand, 100%. They played their hand and won the game, right? But lost because they didn't win anything. That's a hell of a life. You know what I mean? So if you're awake, if you see things the way they are, you have more compassion for these people than you have for other people because they're deep in the shit of suffering. They're very deep in the shit of suffering. You know, sometimes it's hard to have compassion for somebody that's being as crazy as they are and having the effect that craziness has on everybody else, right? But they can't help it. They're totally innocent. They're completely innocent, right? They're completely innocent. Who they are is exactly the same awareness that you and I are. Exactly the same awareness, exactly the same potential to be happy, satisfied, and peaceful. Exactly the same potential, right? But they would never entertain this conversation. They think this is like outliers. You know, this is woo-woo crazy shit. You can't make money. You can't make the kind of money they want to make from this. Well, it's very simple. When you're experiencing who you really are, you're always here, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but the here from me moves thousands of miles away.
Yeah, it appears to move if you're paying attention from the idea that you're a separate self. Okay? But if you're not paying attention from there, even if you are, right, no matter where you go, when you were there, wasn't it here?
It was here, yes.
There you go. See, and the here is the truth because the there can change, right? The there can be anywhere. You could travel anywhere in the world and say, oh, I'm here, now I'm there, now I'm here, now I'm there. But everywhere you are when you're there is here.
It's here.
And when you're here, what time is it?
Now.
That's the reality, no matter what. It's never any other time but now, and you're never any other place but here.
Always in the here and now.
That's right. And you can't get out of it. You know, these people that believe, you know, be here now, you know, the power of now. And then people say, oh, I'm practicing being here. I'm practicing being here now. I want to get into the now, right? That's ridiculous. There's no way, there's no possibility of getting out of the now. You've never been out of the now. You can't get out of the now. It's just like there's no possibility of you being anything other than what you really are, no matter what you think, no matter how you feel, no matter what you believe. It doesn't change anything. You're still exactly the same all the time, right? See, enlightenment is not a certified situation. You know, you don't get a piece of paper, you don't get a diploma that you're enlightened. Why? Because there's nobody outside of you that can determine it. So if you're telling me that you're comfortable most of the time, God bless you.
Yeah.
Is it possible that you're kidding yourself? Yeah, but that's not my problem. The don't know mind is the reality. The don't know mind is the truth. The idea that you know anything is a mental activity, right?
Concept.
Yeah, it's all a conceptual activity. The reality of it is you don't know anything. And it's just like they say in Zen, beginner's mind and don't know mind, same thing. Beginner's mind. In other words, if you're being with life as life is happening, right? One of the things you know is that it's always changing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always changing. It's unpredictable, right? It's always changing, right? So if you're being in your life and you're using your previous understandings and interpretations to know what's happening now, you're not seeing what's happening. You're seeing what happened, not what's happening. So don't know mind or beginner's mind means that you're present or you're available to see what's happening now as something that never happened before. And because you're available that way, you can see it as it is. You won't mistake it for anything else. And that way you'll be more effective because your behavior will be a response to reality instead of a response to what you think. It's trying to use your very tiny database to understand reality, and then use that understanding for reality to function in reality, right?
And that's all it can do. What else?
That's not true. That's not all you can do. It's all you can do as a personality. It's all you can do as a personality. But if you let that go, right? Instead of tuning into that, you just be open intelligence. You just be open intelligence. Now you have all the information in the universe at your disposal, just by being available. right?
It seems disastrous not to analyze what could possibly.
That's right. From a personal point of view, it seems like a disaster. You would never do that. It would seem to you that you would be letting go of the very intelligence that you have. Don't let yourself be confused. Intelligence means data. Intelligence means information, right? Information and the truth are two different subjects. Two different subjects. You can have a lot of information and have no truth, right? Truth is where the power is. Truth is seeing things as they are. Information can be crazy, can be anything. You don't trust the awareness. Right now, you're aware of this room, right? And you know it's a room. You didn't have to think it out. You know it's a room. That's awareness. Awareness is what's knowing. Even when you think what you're thinking is what you're knowing, or you think that you know something based on what you think, no, that's the awareness. The awareness is what's knowing. It can't be you because there is no you. Awareness is what's knowing, and when you allow yourself to just be present to a situation, that doesn't mean that your mind won't still play, right? But instead of attending to that and believing that's the resource that you have to be tuned into all the time to function, you start to move your attention away from that and just relax.
Yes. So you don't have to figure anything out.
No. You don't have to figure anything out.
I do that all the time.
Do you have to figure out what's happening right now? You never do. You never do. And if you allowed yourself to relax and allowed yourself to experience that natural state, right, then you can start to have some fun because you won't be working. You'll be off the job. It's work, isn't it? It's work to be thinking all the time. I got to think about what happened yesterday. I got to think about what's going to happen tomorrow. I got to think about what's happening now, and I got to get it right. I got to figure it out. Maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. I got to believe something. I got to learn something. All the time.
Just let it all go.
You don't have to let anything go. All you have to do is see it for what it is. You know, see it for what it is. You don't have to be dependent on the thought process to experience what's happening.
Letting go is doing something.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
We're not
Yeah.
doers.
Yeah. That's the hardest part of this whole process, is to stop doing. You know, because you have been hypnotized to believe that doing has to happen. Because if you take yourself to be a separate self, then you're a doer. There's the world, here I am, and I'm going to interact with it by doing things, right? Well, but when you're awake, you see it's not there's the world and here I am. There is no two. It's one. It's non-dual.
See, there's a connotation if you're not a doer, you're lazy.
Yeah.
So gets in the way too, because that's how
Yeah.
you're conditioned.
Yeah, that's right. In the personality tribe, doing is a big deal. Just do it.
My mother was big on
Right?
do.
Yeah, doing is a big deal. Don't just do something, sit there. Take the easy way. You know, this is the thing. This is the gateless gate. This is the open secret.
Making little,
Tony Parsons wrote a book. You know who Tony Parsons is? He's one of the pure well, I don't even know if you could call it non-dual. But he's able to speak to people as the awareness, which when people listen to him, it doesn't seem to make sense to them. Right? But he had a spontaneous awakening, and he wrote a book called The Open Secret. Why would he call it The Open Secret? Because it's not a secret. You're experiencing it all the time. How can it be a secret? So the body is like your car. You know, you identify with it as a necessary vehicle to move around in this game we're playing on the game board, right? And as you get older, the body starts to decline, the energy starts to decline, you know. I'm very aware of the fact that if something happens and I have to run hard, I'm fucked.
my broken temper.
Yeah, so you have to have alternative plans. You know, if I have to get away from something, get me a whistle or a horn or something. Because when you get older, you realize the body just can't do it anymore. And when you look back, you realize I didn't even think about this when I was younger.
Right.
I didn't think about whether I could run or not. I knew I could run. There was no problem. Laughing at the ridiculousness of what people are doing and that's unnecessary. The ridiculousness of all this mental activity and all this physical activity that's unnecessary. You're at a party trying to get to a party. You know, you're at a party trying to get to a party. You're experiencing the most indescribable, incomprehensible, exciting experience possible. That's called existence. But you ignore that. Isn't it true? You're experiencing the most exciting, indescribable, amazing experience. A baby's aware of it. Look at a baby's face, right? But once that baby takes on being a personality, the smile goes off their face. Instead of making eye contact with people, they avoid it. Right? That's what happens, right? But it's still there, you know, that saying, you know, Satchidananda is always true. Existence as consciousness is the source of your happiness. Existence as consciousness is the source of your happiness. That's what it means, existence, consciousness, bliss. And the bliss doesn't mean that you're blissed out. That's a bad word for the description, right? It's really kind of satisfied and happy is really what it is. Existence, consciousness, satisfied and happy. And the happiness doesn't mean that you're gleeful and joyful all day long. No, you're human. You're going to have a human experience. It means sometimes shit's good, sometimes shit's bad. Sometimes you feel up, sometimes you feel down. It's human experience. But the happiness is what's going on behind that all the time because you're so happy to be here. You're so happy to be having an experience versus not having an experience. But like I said before, how many people are experiencing that? You know, for most people, their life is a complaint, isn't it? Yeah, it's not a joyful experience, it's a complaint. Listen to people talk. What they're talking about all the time is what they don't like, what they don't want, what's scary, what should be different. That's the human conversation all day long. That's the human conversation. That's why I'm not that. I'm not that social. The more awake you are, the less social you tend to be, because you're not interested. You just don't want to talk about that shit anymore. What's the point? Really, what's the point? You know, I don't have any problem being with somebody. You know, one of the reasons that my wife and I have a workable relationship is because we're being with each other instead of thinking that we have to keep generating a conversation all the time. That's a pain in the ass. It's much more fulfilling for me to just be, you know. I'm not interested in talking about what most people are talking about because it's a waste of energy. I'd rather save my energy and use it to experience consciousness itself. It's much easier and it's much more fulfilling than the stuff that people talk about.